The installer must watch the entire 10-minute installation video. Do not tighten the exhaust system until the exhaust system is aligned as instructed. The gap between the two exhaust pipes at the bottom must be even. Look at the exhaust from all different angles, front, side, and above. Make sure your pipes are aligned as shown in the following photos. Do not idle or rev the engine for a long period of time when the bike is stationary or in an unventilated area. Tighten all nuts and bolts again after the first test ride and again after the second ride. Then periodically when servicing your motorcycle. Tune your engine as soon as possible after installation. We strongly recommend using a dyno specialist. Warranty is void if instructions are not followed correctly. The exhaust kit includes long and short exhaust pipes, heat shields and heat shield clamps, exhaust flange gaskets, a support bracket and bolt, crush washers, and reducers for EFI models or bung plugs for carby models. Preparation. Lay a drop sheet or towel at the base of your motorcycle. Remove the exhaust kit components from the box, and leave in their protective cloth sleeve until needed. Remove your existing exhaust system from your motorcycle, leave the O2 sensors hanging. Use some lubricant on the exhaust port studs. Remove your existing flange gaskets and insert the new flange gaskets provided. Wipe clean and make sure you remove all debris from the exhaust ports. Insert the new flange gasket and gently tap into place. Make sure the new flange gasket sits flush against the back of the exhaust port. Attach the flange and C-clip. Remove your existing flange and C-clips from your old exhaust and install onto the new exhaust pipes. If you purchased a new flange kit, use it on your new exhaust system. When installing the C-clip into the flange, make sure it is correctly inserted in the flange groove. Make sure the C-clip does not pop out when attaching the exhaust pipe and flange to the exhaust port. With some models you will have to extend the front O2 sensor cable. Unclip the cable from underneath the motorcycle chassis. Unbind the cable until the length reaches the front O2 sensor. You can cable tie the excess cable length to the chassis later. O2 sensor bungs and reducers. If you have 18mm O2 sensors, attach the new crush washer onto the O2 sensor. If you have 12mm O2 sensors, attach the new crusher washer onto the 12mm bung reducer. Then screw the reducer into the exhaust pipe and tighten firmly. With carburetor models, attach the new crush washer onto the bung plug and screw directly into the exhaust pipe. Attach the short rear exhaust pipe. Place a small amount of lubricant on the O2 sensor thread. Avoid lubricant on the sensor head. Twist the O2 sensor cable anti-clockwise enough times so when you screw the O2 sensor into the bung or reducer, the cable will untwist and straighten. Then tighten firmly and recheck after installation. Attach the exhaust pipe flange onto the exhaust port studs and screw the flange nuts onto the studs. Leave the exhaust pipe slightly loose so we can adjust the pipe alignment later. Be careful the C-clips do not pop out of the flange groove when attaching the exhaust pipes onto the exhaust ports. Attach the long front exhaust pipe. Place a small amount of lubricant on the O2 sensor thread. Avoid lubricant on the sensor head. Twist the O2 sensor cable anti-clockwise enough times so when you screw the O2 sensor into the bung or reducer, the cable will untwist and straighten. Then tighten firmly and recheck after installation. Attach the exhaust pipe flange onto the exhaust port studs and screw the flange nuts onto the studs. Leave the exhaust pipe slightly loose so we can adjust the pipe alignment later. Be careful the C-clips do not pop out of the flange groove when attaching the exhaust pipes onto the exhaust ports. Attach the support bracket. Remove the front bottom transmission bolt. This is the bolt closest to the engine. The 30-degree angled end of the bracket attaches to the front bottom gearbox bolt, and the 90-degree angled end attaches in between the two exhaust pipes. Attach your support bracket to the gearbox, leave loose, to maneuver and adjust the bracket when attaching it to the exhaust pipes. The support bracket swivels 180 degrees to allow the correct alignment. These photos show the correct support bracket position and alignment when the exhaust system is installed. Loosen the lock nuts on the support bracket turnbuckle. Place the 90-degree support bracket in between the two exhaust pipes, screw the support bracket bolt into the support bracket housing and leave slightly loose. Bring the exhaust into alignment by slowly adjusting the support bracket turnbuckle. This will move the exhaust pipes outwards or inwards, and simultaneously softly tighten the exhaust flange nuts. Continue adjusting the support bracket and tightening the exhaust flange nuts simultaneously until the exhaust is correctly aligned. Keep the gap between the bottom of the exhaust pipes even by tightening the flange nuts independently. The distance between the transmission cover and the exhaust pipes may vary from 3 mm to 10 mm depending on the motorcycle model. Pre-2023 models will have a smaller space and post-2023 models will have a larger space between the transmission housing and exhaust pipes. Tighten all nuts and bolts firmly. Once the exhaust pipes are aligned and the exhaust distance from the transmission is correct, the flanges and C-clips are installed correctly and evenly. Tighten all the nuts and bolts on the exhaust system. Tighten the exhaust flange nuts slowly from one side to the other without causing the gap between the bottom of the two exhaust pipes to become uneven or out of alignment. Make sure you slowly adjust the support bracket turnbuckle inward or outward as required and tighten the flange nuts at the same time. Do not have the support bracket putting too much inward or outward pressure on the exhaust pipes when the exhaust flange nuts are tightened. The flange nuts should not exceed 30 to 60 inches pound pressure. Tighten the support bracket bolt on the bottom of the transmission and the support bracket bolt in the bracket housing. Make sure you adjust the support bracket turnbuckle slowly and in sync when tightening the exhaust flange nuts. Once everything is tight and aligned correctly, tighten the lock nuts on the support bracket turnbuckle. Attach the heat shields. Make sure you use a socket driver and not a screwdriver on the 6 mm hex bolts. Position the 4 holes on the front heat shield and the blow logo on the back heat shield towards the bottom. With ceramic black, be very careful as the coating is extremely thin and scratches easily. To avoid marking the exhaust pipe, you can use the exhaust pipe protection cloth in your packaging or place paper on the inside of the heat shield, then remove when the heat shield is in place. Place the heat shields close to the exhaust pipes to calculate which way the heat shield clamps need to face to allow easy access to the clamp bolts. Insert the clamps into the heat shield. Carefully place the heat shields onto the exhaust pipes and tighten the clamps, but leave slightly loose. The gap behind the heat shield and exhaust pipe must be even on both sides. Make sure the clamps are not positioned across the step welds. The bottom of the heat shields must cover the lowest step weld and needs to be level with each other on the exhaust pipes when the motorcycle is upright. When the heat shields are aligned, carefully and evenly tighten the clamps. Do not over-tighten as it will strip the clamp bolt thread. Baffle installation. The performance baffles are non-directional and can go in either way. The standard baffles are directional. The end with the 4 holes goes into the exhaust pipe towards the engine and the smooth side faces outward. Line up the bolt holes on the baffle with the holes in the exhaust pipe. Then attach the flat washer, then the spring washer onto the hex bolt and screw into the baffle. Tighten firmly. If the Pro baffles are tight when installing, use a file and slightly shave the baffle edges. Copper heat shields. Do not wash the copper heat shields with solvent or use cutting compound or polish, as they are coated with Everbright to prevent tarnish. To clean, use a warm wet cloth. Please refer to our copper heat shield maintenance cleaning and care instruction on our website. Showroom chrome and ceramic black heat shields can be washed and cleaned with normal cleaning products. All done, here we go. Start your engine. Make sure there are no exhaust leaks. Don't over-rev or idle for a long period of time when the motorcycle is in a stationary position. Test ride for approximately 10 minutes or when the motorcycle reaches operating temperature. When you're back, let the bike cool down, then retighten all the nuts and bolts again. Do this again after the second ride and then check periodically when servicing the motorcycle. We strongly recommend having your bike dyno tuned by a professional. No two engines are the same, and for this reason we do not provide map settings. In the interim, you can set your mapping to Vance and Hines short shot staggered. However, as soon as possible, find a great dyno tune specialist and let him tune the exhaust system to your motorcycle. Please avoid tuners that criticize the exhaust. Contact us if you require assistance. Installing a high-performance or sports air cleaner will optimize the performance of our 3-step exhausts technology. Air in, air out, and the correct fuel mix in the middle will make noticeable gains to your horsepower and torque. Please email photos after the exhaust is installed so we can check the exhaust fitment and alignment. Please give us a review on our Facebook reviews page. Thank you for your support and ride safe.